Welcome back to the Means Report. We are so happy to have Sheriff Richard Roundtree, the Sheriff of Richmond County, Georgia, with us today on the Means Report. He needs no introduction, but I do want to let you know that he is here and want to get right to our questions. Sheriff Roundtree, thank you so much for being with us.
It's always a pleasure, Brad. Thanks.
Well, we're grateful to you, and I wanted to, on this very busy week, just get an update on the Paine College situation right off the bat. In our first segment, we let the viewers know that you all had, of course, made one arrest. And again, this is recorded on Thursday, but as of Thursday, you'd arrested Xavier Cooper in connection with the shooting of the Penn College student, Jawan Baker, and that you were looking for a Christopher Jackson, a person of interest. Any updates you can give us?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm coming here. Christopher Jackson actually came down to Law Enforcement Center, and he's being interviewed as we speak now. And based on those interviews, we'll see what direction we go.
So, person of interest is always, you know, it's a very generic way to refer to somebody. You're not saying suspect, you're not saying he pulled the trigger. What do you think his role might have been in this whole thing? Well,
like I said in the news conference earlier, we knew that Mr. Jackson, he was the victim of the Laurel Street shooting, and we know that he, in fact, was on campus at the time of the first shooting. So we're trying to get that connection, trying to see exactly what is the connection, what is the significance, if it's a coincidence, if it's not a coincidence, and especially you want to know why somebody shot up his house.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this about the safety of the campus of Penn College. They have their own police department. They called in reinforcements as of Sunday, and they said they, in conjunction with Richmond County's patrols in the neighborhood, are safe. What are your thoughts, Sheriff? Do you think that area is safe, is secure? What should residents know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've said before, this incident happened. Two individuals were having an altercation.
Yes, sir.
And the common factor is that they both attended Paine College. Again, they ran to each other on an elevator, met up, had exchanged some words, and thus leading to the shooting. So this could have happened anywhere. I said it could have been, you know, at a drugstore, on the corner, a gas station. Just to happen that they passed across at that time was on the College of Paine campus.
Yeah, I love what you said. You know, you compared it to a grocery store or some other workplace, and somebody in the newsroom even said, look, if this had happened a block down the street, we would have treated it as an aggravated assault and spent 10 seconds on it. I guess the concern was, though, that one of our beloved institutions, Penn College, been a part of this community for more than a century, that its students were in danger. And from what I'm hearing, in the aftermath of the shooting, they were safe, the proper procedures were followed.
Absolutely, and that's why we train on active shooter drills every year. Every agency, you know, again, going way back for Columbine, it goes to the forefront of everyone's attention when you have Institute of Higher Learning where students are involved, because they're supposed to be there for an education. They shouldn't be concerned about their safety. So when you have an incident of that type, it causes for alarm, because a lot of the parents of the students, you know, like something happened here in Augusta, we can immediately go to school and get our kids.
Right.
If you got parents who 1,000 miles away, they can't go and get their kids. So they trust their kids' safety to us. So, you know, in this particular situation, we train every year for it because, you know, sometimes bad things happen. And I can't be more proud of the response of my team, as well as Paine and fires, EMS, Georgia State Patrol came in. I mean, we had everyone responded to that scene without even being called. They knew that, hey, if you need us, we're here. And that's, as a community, as a group, when all agencies come together like that, that's your defining moment. And I think based on the circumstances, and luckily it was not a fatality, that everyone responded the way they were trained. And I think by the response, it probably prevented any further violence, because you did have a shooter that was captured on the College of Paine campus.
I don't know if I read this in the Chronicle or if it came across the Channel 6 newsroom, but there was a report that when you were out of town, I think the weekend of the shooting, just coming back in town, basically when it happened, I think, anyway, that another member of the sheriff's office was put in charge. Can you explain kind of the procedures that you have in place for when you're not in town?
Right. As of last Wednesday, I was out of time. What we do is a change of command order. And from Wednesday of the week prior to that Tuesday, Chief Deputy Patrick Clayton assumed my responsibilities in my role. So we type out, what we do is type up a formal letter, and we send it out to all road patrol personnel, let them know that there is a change of command. He is the acting sheriff in my stead.
Let me stick with, we're talking about college kids. Let me stick with young people, because I remember when you were running for sheriff, and even in the months after you took office, you put a lot of priority on young people and the role that kids can play in fighting crime. Your thoughts on how our young people can step up and help keep us all safer?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a new generation. It's a technological generation now, and kids with the social media. We're dinosaurs when it comes to that. It amazes me when I was in the airport and just looking, and I see these 2-year-old kids. And before we were just amazed they were walking and starting to speak, and they had tablets and they were doing things on them and scrolling on them, and I was just amazed how far we come in advance. So, growing up in this age, if you get young people involved, actively involved early, and let them know this is our community. We're trying to build a better community. And we as adults, we want our community to be safe for our children. But when that generation comes up, let them know, hey, these are some things that you need to do to make your community safe. And you have more influence than we do on that generation. So, if you lead by example, you get a generation of leaders and say, we're not going to tolerate foolishness, we're not going to tolerate the violence, and stand up and be willing to stand up for that. And you will see that people will get behind you. They'll rally behind you on that, and it reinforces, the generational gap between what we're trying to do in the next generation and, for your grandkids to come.
Sheriff, let me ask you about a bold move that you made, and to be honest with you, it impressed a lot of people. That was when the budget cuts were first suggested by the commission. 2.4% across the board budget cuts. Sheriff Roundtree, you stepped up and said, no, we cannot cut that from my office, from my agency. And the commission backed off. Tell us a little bit about your thinking and your approach to that, and why you said, look, my men and women cannot handle this cut.
Well, and I didn't want it to be a confrontational situation. And I had been speaking to commissioners behind the scenes and let them know this is crucial to the plans we already have in place. Like when I came in office, remember, I had an existing budget. It was put by the previous administration. I had to work within that budget to try to create the programs that I wanted to start. And we were extending, we exceeded our goals with the programs we started with the budget we inherited. Now, of course, we put in place an additional funding for additional things, but we always worked on the confines of the budget that I had. So going to our second year, we had already been planning 2 and 3 years out based on the current budget. And for them to cut it, it would have cut our programs back. It would hinder us, like the downtown project that our smart units that we were able to roll out. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to roll those out. We moving forward with our technology department and a lot of things that we already had in place. And what they have to understand about our sheriff office now, we're thinking 3 and 4 years down the road. Right. This year we have state accreditation by the end of the summer. And before the end of my first term, we're going to be nationally accredited. But these plans are already in place. And that's what I was trying to get them to understand is, legally, a commission can reduce my budget, but you have to reduce it in specific areas and say why, and it can't jeopardize public safety. You can't arbitrarily tell me to cut 2.4%. And that's why I was trying to get them to understand. I told them I'm willing to work with you. That's why the next budget cycle, we want to start early, and we will be at the discussion. I'll be at the table talking to them, but I'm telling you, these are the things that we're doing. And I told them the first year, we gave back like $1 million. So I told them, it's not I'm going to try to spend every dime I have. We don't have that kind of administration. Just because it's in our budget, we're not going to go out and try to buy new furniture at the end of the year just to keep the money. These monies in place to programs, and you've seen the results. And I told them our first year, we cut homicide rate down by 43%. Our violent crime rate dropped 13%. Property crime rate dropped 16%. First year and now we're going to go into a zone concept starting the 27th of this month that we think is going to be a huge difference. During the high crime areas, we're going to increase our office on patrol by 41%.
Wow.
During the high peak crime areas based on data and computer-generated data and crime analysis. And that's why I was trying to tell them that these things are already in place. This ain't something we came up with last week. These were in place last year, and I was telling them that I couldn't do it. I cannot cut it.
And I know that you supported SPLOST, and if SPLOST passes, law enforcement, public safety will get a big chunk of that. Let me ask you, I need to have time for 2 more questions. One's about downtown safety. Your thoughts on that? I know that's been a big focal point for you, is keeping downtown safe.
Oh, absolutely, and that's one of the things with the SPLOST. When I first presented the package a year and a half ago, when I was trying to get the money for the cameras and the people, and I told them patrols is one thing, but you also need to augment it with surveillance and equipment. So I was able to fund the additional deputies downtown with the unit. But the SPLOST packet allows me now to put in the camera system that we wanted that's monitored full time. So now you have 2 components. So within a year, that means you increase the downtown safety plan almost 100% because you've added patrols and you added 24-hour video surveillance, and that's huge for the growth of downtown.
I saw you give a couple of speeches to civic organizations, and I don't want to quote you because I'll probably mess up the quote, but the gist of it was that a lot of the responsibility for keeping our communities safe falls on us, the citizens. So I wanted to get you to comment on that, because a lot of us think, or we used to think, Sheriff, that as long as we saw that silver and black car roll past our house, we were safe. But you are a big believer in everybody taking a role.
Absolutely. That's the only way it's going to work. You know, during my campaign, I said, you know, community law enforcement together, one team, one dream. That was my campaign. It wasn't my slogan. That was my motto. That was our mission. That was our plan, to get the citizens actively involved. Because, again, you know, we have the largest full-service sheriff office in the state of Georgia, and we can suppress crime temporarily.
Right.
But we're trying to establish an element of living where it suppresses crime to the fact that you see a difference, a better quality of life in your neighborhood, but you have to be actively engaged. And we tell people, if you're actively engaged, we're going to be right there with you every step of the way, and sometimes leading the way, but we need your support. And people are buying into it, and officers are buying into it, and we are seeing results. And that's why I want to show in my first year that it works. You know, and that's what excites us about it. And the more people get involved in it, they start to see this whole city get safe. And I like to say this, Brad, you know, I hate the divisive nature of this city.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, this sheriff office, and I told my men and women, I said, we have an opportunity to unite this city through this office. That's what we are. We are a service agency, and we want to show people we're here for service. But we need you to join us in that.
Well, I appreciate all that you have been doing, and I tell you what, you know, news reporters and journalists are supposed to be objective, and we are, and we try to play it right down the middle, but I'm telling you, you're doing a superb job.
Well, I appreciate that, and the men and women hear that. I get emails every day. I get phone calls about what this deputy did this, and you know, they stopped and went and got me gas, and I mean, these things that they weren't seeing before. And that's what makes a difference, and that's what makes this job every day when I go to work and I get those emails and get those cards and I pass them on to the men. That's what it's about. You know, of course, they need more money, but this is what they do the job for the people say, we appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Sheriff, and thank you for taking the time. We're grateful that you were our guest.
Well, I'm absolutely glad we can assure the people that the city is going to be safer and if we work together.
Richmond County Sheriff Richard Roundtree. Stay with us. The Means Report continues in just a moment. We'll be right back.